another edition of L Miller Learn and Implement. This topic I want to get into: gangs are for adolescents. It's not for adults. It's not for adults. That's why when you see adults who still are gang members, they have an adolescent mindset, right? A lot of gangs, and when I say gangs, I'm referring to black gangs, because I'm African American, so that's my only concern. It is what it is. So, it's a lot of gangs are created by people who are 15 and 16 years old. Right, just search the age of Tookie Williams when he started the Crips, or Melvin Farmer and them guys when they start their gangs, or Larry Hoover, the age they start their gangs in youth detention centers, is when these gangs begin. Right, a gang is like an adolescent. How should I word it? I call it a adolescent. It's like an adolescent phenomenon or something like that, right? You scream like the blood in, blood out, like you got to get jumped in order to leave. You got to get jumped out or threatened or killed or something to get out, but that's kind of false. Like most youth join gangs when they 13 and don't stay no more than 2 years. And 90% of people who join gangs, they leave gangs within them 2 years, right? Because they 12, 13 when they join. By the time they 15 and 16, they older and they mind developing more. And they probably looking at it like, this is some retard shit that's going on, right? That's why you see adults who still in gangs. Their tempers are quick still. They don't think things through. They act off emotions, right? That's like teenage behavior. And you 25, 30, 40, and you still acting like that. Right? Don't take responsibility at all. You having children that you ain't taking care of. That's childish shit. Right? You you be a full blown adult, right? Who has a kid and give the kid weed and stuff like that. Like if a 13-year-old had a kid, he might do something that silly, but as an adult and doing shit like that, right? Right? Cause gangs leave you in that adolescent mindset, right? And this is, and as an adolescent, your cognitive development, this is when you're supposed to be able to think and reason, a more complex thoughts, and you're supposed to operate more logically. That's why you see when people join at 13 and leave when they 15, because they thinking more logically and more complex. They starting to think about the future, right? And they know like this isn't going anywhere. It's almost like they see it as a stopgap, as doing something, and they probably think back because they in 7th grade when they join, and by the time they freshmen in high school, they getting involved in more things in high school. And I ain't got no time for this bullshit going on right here. Right? And then, and I guess the blood in, blood out is like a scare tactic maybe. Because nobody gets, I ain't gonna say nobody don't, but a lot of times they don't get killed leaving, or they don't get beat up when they leave. They just distance themselves, don't got no more time for it, and they just out of it. Right? That blood in, blood out might apply in prisons, right? Because in prison it's like y'all still seeing each other every day. Y'all still right next door to each other, and there's no outlets to go anywhere. So if you leave a gang in prison, I can understand the blood in, blood out, because they can get to you more easier or whatever. But it's an adolescent thing, really. I'm extremely childish to be in a gang as an adult, especially as an adult with a family. Right? And if you are an adult in a gang and have a family, you need to separate yourself from your family, because all you're doing is putting your family at risk at that point. Right? So anytime you look at these children getting killed, right? Go and look up who they was riding with when they got killed. Go look up who was at the house when they got killed, right, by straight bullets and stuff, right? It's not like the children are the target; the adults are the target, right? So back home, I remember this gang mess was going on. You can research this as well. Dude knocked on the door. His homeboy came and drove and shot at the door. Killed a 6-year-old. Right? 6-year-old wasn't a target, of course. The person who did whatever he did to them was a target and lived there. So if you're going to be in a gang, you really need to separate yourself from your family, and do that. If you can help it, don't have children and don't have a family at all. And if the women are down with you and they end up getting killed behind you because they're down with you, you know, that's okay too. They just shouldn't have children. And they should also separate from their children as well, because they're doing a horrible fucking job of raising these kids anyway. So just let the system get them, you know. But to endanger your children like that is despicable. It's nasty, right? Like the kid that got killed at the Burger King or McDonald's, I think, probably a year ago, in the back seat. Parent was a target. You actively involved in these gangs and riding around with children in the car, with your mama in the car, with your grandma in the car. For what? You should be riding by yourself at all times. You should be by yourself at all times. You should go nowhere near your children. You shouldn't live in the same house with your children. You should also get life insurance. That way your children can have something from your death. I think studies show like a lot of gang members die before 30 or whatever. But yeah, like I was saying, it's an adolescent oriented phenomenon, you know, that 90% of the youth normally leave, but 10% still stay, and the 10% who stay end up being retarded adults, obviously, because that's the only reason somebody would stay in this kind of life. It makes no sense. Between dealing with the cops arresting you, people shooting at you, putting your family in danger, your children in danger, it just makes no sense. Like a 13-year-old, I can understand them doing that, right? Because the concept isn't there yet. But a 25-year-old still doing this, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then becoming wealthy and still engaging in this, I definitely don't get that part. That's the craziest shit I don't get. You become wealthy and still involved in street crimes. That's like it blows my mind. And of course, since people stay in are stuck in a child mindset as an adult, the people around the wealthy people who still engaging in the street shit don't even have enough sense to tell them, get away from us. But a child, you know, would say, oh yeah, because they ain't developed. They would say, oh yeah, keep doing what you're doing with us. Not thinking, you know, this the money guy. He should be nowhere near us. You know, L. Miller, learn and implement.